Welcome to the YouTube channel of Dennis Relojo-Howell, the world's first blog psychologist and founder of PsychReg. Today, Dennis was interviewed by Dhangelyne Mabbun, a high school student from the Philippines.
First question po. What is depression to you?
Depression, I think it's a state when you're not able to function normally. Let's say you used to be able to interact with your friends and with your family, but it has been significantly affected. I think that's one of the markers of depression. And of course, APA has set out specific criteria about what would qualify as clinical depression. I'm not specifically aware of the specific criteria of APA because that's beyond my remit. But as a mental health blogger, I've read a number of stories about people who are suffering from depression. And from what I've learned is that these people who are suffering from depression, they have anxiety, and then it significantly affects the way they interact with people and the way they do their work. So in a nutshell, that's how I would characterize depression.
Do you think it is important for people to understand the real meaning of depression? Because nowadays, they tend to self-proclaiming that they are depressed even though they're not.
Yes, I think it has something to do with a lot of things could be accessed on the internet now, and a lot of people are self-diagnosing depression among other mental health issues. I would say that for us to label someone, whether they're suffering with depression, of course it's important that we seek help from a registered clinical psychologist, but it's also important for us to take into account the lived experience of people who are experiencing depression, because by and large, when we're talking about depression and other mental health issues, it's an aspect of behavior, and I think that you would agree with me, studying psychology, that we cannot put behavior in a box. So we can't really limit our understanding of what depression is based on what APA is suggesting, but I think we also have to take into account lived experience.
Okay, sir. Do you think people can be depressed without knowing why?
I don't have a personal experience of depression, or I haven't worked as a clinician, so I think my answer to that would be quite limited. But from my limited understanding of how depression works, I think it's possible for us to be depressed without being specifically aware of what causes depression. Again, APA has laid out specific criteria of what causes depression, or when do we qualify someone to be experiencing depression. Yeah, but I think it's possible. Short answer, it's possible.
For follow-up questions po, what do you think are the main causes of depression?
I think the main causes of depression is that I think one of there are a number of factors that would contribute to someone experiencing depression. I could only share to you what I can access from reputable sources such as the NHS. Here in the UK, we have NHS, which is basically like it's a government healthcare system. And according to the NHS, some people might find some stressful events such as bereavement, divorce, illness, redundancy, and job or money worries. That could be the cause. There are just there are just a number of things that could cause depression, and some people are better at managing stressful life events, where some people they're not really fortunate enough to manage those stressful life events, and so depression is the cause.
What can you say as a blogger? What can you say about the teenagers self-proclaiming their depression?
As a mental health blogger, I think part of it has to do with you're probably aware. A lot of people are actually on YouTube. They're saying that they've got depression among other mental health illness. A lot of it is the sense that you're actually getting attention, especially like when you put it on Facebook that you've got depression, even though you're not clinically diagnosed as having depression. In a way, it's good because a few decades ago, when I could still remember when I was your age, when I was still studying psychology in the Philippines. There was not so much discussion about depression or other mental health illness. Way back then, internet was not very popular, but things have changed significantly now. In a way, it's good because a lot of people can talk about depression easily. But it has also undermined what real depression is and what actual mental health illness is. So I think. When it comes to such things, we have to strike a balance. We have to be appreciative of the power of the internet. That it allows us to connect people, but it's also a platform for you to seek attention. Whether you're actually suffering from a mental illness or not. I think you've encountered some people who are actually posting their so-called experiences of mental health online, but they don't actually have a lived experience, or they don't actually have a clinical diagnosis. So I think we have to strike a balance.
Okay. What can depressed people do for themselves in order to feel better?
I think the best thing to do would really be to seek help from a psychologist or a counselor. That's the best advice that I could offer. And as a mental health blogger myself, I've learned from experience that they also find it cathartic if they're actually venting out their experience when they put it online. They find a sense of relief, a sense of shall we say fulfillment, that you can actually express yourself. If I may just share, because I did for my master's degree, I did a research project on expressive writing, and in layman's terms, basically expressive writing is the idea that you can actually get psychological value out of expressing yourself through writing, and essentially that's where writing about your mental health experience through blogging comes in. And I would say that if you think that you could actually share your experience through blogging, then do so. But at the most, I would highly suggest that you seek the help of mental health professionals.
For the last question, what can you do in order to change the perspective of people about depression?
That's an interesting question. As you're probably aware, I'm running a psychology website called PsychReg, and that's one of my advocacy as the founder of PsychReg, is basically to reach as many people as possible. And the way I try to achieve this is through making mental health resources as accessible as possible. And I fundamentally believe that blog has a power to reach as many people as possible. Like what I've always said to people is that there are so many resources about psychology, about mental health, about well-being, but most of them are actually accessible for for researchers, for academics, and for those people who actually need these resources. Somehow there's a disconnect between the way contents are written, and that's where blogging comes in. Because blogging, it has a more conversational aspect, it has a more conversational tone. That's why I think a lot of people who are suffering with mental health issues, they're more drawn into reading blogs rather than reading academic journals or resources from other organizations or other parties. And I think it's really helpful that we try to reach as many people as possible through blogs, through podcasts, through mental health events.
So, thank you, Sir Dennis, for the time.
Thank you, and I wish you all the best with your research project.
Thank you po, sir.
Okay.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you for listening. Head over to PsychReg to discover all things psychology, mental health and well-being.